The fourth chapter of Poppy Playtime not only continued the exciting development of the main story, but also introduced new intriguing characters that added even more depth and layering to the game's world. One such new character is Doey the Doughman, a figure that instantly caught players' attention with his uniqueness and interesting twists and turns in the narrative. I'll tell you about Doey's split personality and why he killed Pianosaurus and saved us. In this video, you and I will take an in-depth look at Doey the Doughman, exploring the motivations that guided his actions. Also, let's speculate on his actions and examine why exactly he came to our rescue the first time. I will do my best to answer all questions and consider all possible theories. After all, Doey is a character that leaves no player indifferent, as his role in the plot of the new chapter is quite tragic. In appearance, Doey resembles an unusual rounded creature made of multicolored dough. His head and most of his torso are light blue in color, giving him a rather bright and attractive appearance. He has a blue bowler hat on his head, which makes his image even more memorable. Doey has long arms which are thicker at the bottom. His left arm is colored orange and his right arm is yellow. His legs are short and red like small pegs. His face has no pronounced features except for holes representing eyes and mouth. An interesting feature of his appearance is the yellow, orange, and red dough on his belly, which forms a pattern of 3 bending arms that reach toward the center of his belly. When Doey is seized with rage, teeth appear in his mouth, which becomes especially noticeable before his transformation. Now let's start with the moment when our protagonist first meets Doey the Doughman. Indeed, this becomes pivotal in the development of the plot, as despite the dangers, Doey still decides to intervene and save the protagonist. When the former factory employee, i.e. the protagonist, meets Doey for the first time, he is in the Pianosaurus cell. At this point, the protagonist finds himself in great danger, as this creation immediately attacks him. But Doey decisively intervenes, using his long and stretchy arms to grab Pianosaurus and drags him into the shadows. When our savior emerges from the darkness afterward, he is accompanied by broken pieces from the toy. Despite his cruelty to Pianosaurus, Doey displays a friendly and cheerful demeanor, assuring us that he has no intention of eating us. He informs us that he was alerted to the player's arrival and offers to follow him to find a safe place on this level. Safe Haven. A little later, we learn that many of the toys in Safe Haven are starving. Even if Doey wasn't hungry, it would be logical of him to kill us and feed the little experiments. But he decided to save us. Many will say it's simple. Most likely it was Ollie who informed him of our appearance, as later, when Doey helps us across the chasm, he mentions that Ollie said we could be trusted. What internal and external factors might have influenced his decision? After all, our new acquaintance is primarily focused on protecting the orphanage. So I think it'll be important to note that he has his own reasons for helping in the first place, and I'll try to get to the bottom of his motivations. Throughout the game, even before Doey introduces himself to us, we meet him more than once. He repeatedly helps us by opening locked doors in our path and providing valuable assistance in difficult moments. For example, when the main character has to hide from Yarnaby for the first time, Doey diverts his attention, giving us a chance to escape. I think all this time he was looking out for us and assessing whether we could trust the unknown guest or not after all. I think he was confused and not sure what the right thing to do was. It was impossible to abandon the protagonist, but it was too risky to trust him just because Ollie said so. Also worth noting is his ambiguous behavior. Doey is as cheerful as a child, joking, then suddenly becomes serious in an instant and tries to hold back his anger. In order to understand his behavior, we must first dive into his backstory. Inside Doey are 3 very different people who are constantly fighting among themselves. Doey's creation began with his appearance as a mascot for Doey Dough, a plastic material released by the Playtime Co. in the late 1950s. The product became one of the company's commercial successes as a toy for children after the Poppy doll. However, Doey's fortunes changed dramatically when he became the subject of experimentation. His character was rewritten through the manipulation of 3 different children. The first of these children was Jack Ayers, a sweet and innocent boy who was given the opportunity to visit the Playtime Cumber factory as a Christmas present. Along with it, he was presented with a Doey the Doughman toy. During the tour, Jack was away from the group and accidentally fell into the dough mixer where he probably died. The second child, Kevin Barnes, was notable for his temperament. He easily became hysterical and hurt those around him, even his friends. The third was a smart and caring teenager, Matthew Hallard, always ready to support others. Scientists had long hesitated to use him for experiments, and he was nominated to become an employee of the company, given his kindness and social skills. After the tragic incident involving Jack, an unknown scientist contacted his parents and informed them that there was a possibility of returning their son. 6 weeks later, the boy's parents came to the factory and met him in the guise of Doey, as captured on the videotape 1322, Report Jack. However, Jack, who was now part Doey, did not recognize them as his consciousness was now shared by two other boys. Perhaps at this point, in a fit of rage, another child seized control and believing Jack's parents to be scientists who had harmed them, killed them. After Poppy disappeared during the Hour of Joy event, Doey was faced with the choice of leaving the factory or staying and helping the remaining toys. Of course, Prototype could have tried to stop Doey from leaving, but he was unable to defeat Doey when they clashed off-screen in the game's final scene. I think Doey could have left the factory, but he chose to stay and guard Safe Haven, a haven for benevolent toys to protect them from threats. To keep his mission in mind, he recorded a video message to himself. It's worth mentioning that towards other toys, Doey the Doughman is the true embodiment of benevolence and caring. From the moment we are brought into the shelter, we see him display the qualities that make him an unwavering leader and protector to all the residents of Safe Haven. As soon as the need for assistance arises, Doey is always there, ready to lend a helping hand to anyone in need. His efforts are focused on maintaining peace and order in Safe Haven, and he tries to help other toys deal with any difficulties that arise. These are not just words. Doey proves his dedication time and time again through deed, caring for each resident as if they were members of their own family. His gentle and friendly approach to the other toys makes him a true favorite among all the survivors of Safe Haven. They see him not only as a leader but also as a friend they can always count on. However, despite his friendliness and openness, Doey has the determination and fortitude to defend his Safe Haven and its inhabitants from any threats. He is not afraid to speak out against other company experiments that threaten the safety of Safe Haven, and is willing to go to any lengths to keep peace and quiet in his small community. Doey the Doughman shows concern not only for the current well-being of his friends, but also strives to keep them safe in the long run. He realizes that this requires making tough decisions and resilience of character. Perhaps this was one of the reasons Doey confided in Ollie, who assured him that the former Playtime Coworkers employee could be trusted. When we first met Doey, he played a crucial role in our rescue, and there are several theories on this. One of the main reasons Doey decided to step in and save us was because of the information he received from Ollie. Ollie alerted Doey of our arrival and assured him that the protagonist was a reliable and safe character. However, while this was important, I don't think it was this information that was the deciding factor in the decision to help us and bring us to Safe Haven. As mentioned earlier, despite the information we received, trusting an uninvited guest unconditionally and bringing them to Safe Haven for toys was still a risky move. It is important to realize that all the residents of Safe Haven view us with suspicion and distrust. They make it clear that a former Playtime Coworkers employee is not to be completely trusted. Nevertheless, the fact that we are still brought to Safe Haven underscores the dire state of affairs at Doey and the entire Safe Haven. As we stay in the safe toy base and listen to the various toys talk, it becomes apparent that they are very hungry and their strength is running low. The traps set by Dr. Harley Sawyer and the creatures at his command make it impossible to bring supplies to the inhabitants of Safe Haven. This creates a situation in which Doey is forced to look for any opportunity to fortify and defend his hideout, as well as to find food. On the one hand, Doey acts with the best of intentions, seeking to protect and help those in need. As the protector and leader of Safe Haven, it is his duty to intervene in dangerous situations to ensure the safety of his friends. His benevolence and desire to protect others become the basis for his actions. He realizes that a former employee can be a valuable ally in the fight against common enemies and threats. On the other hand, his decision to save the protagonist and bring him to Safe Haven can be explained by his personal motivations for destroying Dr. Harley Sawyer. And I think that was the deciding factor in his decision to save us after all. Doey realizes that getting rid of the doctor will increase the chances of the poor toys surviving. Sawyer's absence will open up opportunities to resupply and recuperate the inhabitants of Safe Haven. The player can help Doey achieve this goal, which was one of the reasons for his action. What do you think of these theories? What is your opinion of Doey the Doughman? Do you think Doey let us in because he showed us kindness? Or did he want to kill us and feed us to the other toys? Write your opinions and theories in the comments, and I'll be sure to read them. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Good luck, everyone, and bye-bye.